Ask with your eyes if I need you. I'm wondering why you're so scared. There's so much of food here to feed you. Or you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Or you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. There are things we're akin but not needing. The stuff built on Caesar's affairs. You started this way by believing. Oh, now you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Oh, you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. Now there's only one road left to follow, and $1 won't pay for your fare. A book might have a words you can swallow. Yeah, but you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Oh, you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. Wonder why, wonder why.
Where are we? Hang tight, people. I'm trying to find my stuff. There it is. Where's my glasses? Here I am. Welcome, my friends, to tonight's fellowship. I'm really excited about this, and I'm hopeful everything's going to go right, because I had to do some manipulations of things, and we're going to have Max. He's here. He's waiting. Caregiver is here. Vanessa's all over the chat. Shalom, Vanessa. And there's only one note I have from last time we got together. I forget who it was who was asking about Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 9, where they were saying, geez, we thought Israel was Yahweh's wife. How come he says he's her father? And what it is you have to pay closer attention to the wording where Yahweh says, I am a father to Israel. He didn't say, I fathered Israel. He didn't say, I am Israel's father. He says, I am a father to Israel. Well, let me tell you, my friends, I've been a father to a couple of my nephews. I can be a father to all kinds of people, and that's what Yahweh was saying, is that it can be a father to his wife, because sometimes she acts like a little child. So anyway, we're going to have Max is here, and let me tell you, my friends, I've known Max for many, many, many years. We are very, very close. We love each other beyond words. And Max is here to talk to you about his amazing work in showing us all why it is that the Father says the day begins at sunrise. So, let me introduce you to my good friend Max. Say hello to Max. Oh, good. We got caregivers in Max's box again. How did this happen? And caregiver, I don't hear your voice.
Oh, that's because I thought Max was gonna be on.
I don't know. Let me see if I can fix this somehow. It says Skype. Let me see if I go to Skype. That doesn't work. If I go to Skype 1, I still get you. Oh, jeez, this is so crazy. We had it working, and now it's not working. Where am I? I need
Glad I
Skype.
brushed my hair.
Jeez, now all right, let me try. I'll go to caregiver and Max. Okay. Well, caregiver, if you want, you can turn off your camera. I've got Max in the lower box where it says caregiver. I don't know how we fixed this before, but there's caregiver smiling in Max's box.
I don't think people will be too confused.
Well, anyway, Max, there you are. Go ahead and say hello.
Oh, hello. Greetings. I'm all the way here in New Zealand, so I know it's your evening over there. It's my afternoon here, so I'm just sitting back waiting to get the go for it.
Well, do you want to preface or explain anything? What happened? You're over on the right side of the screen. Did you move your camera?
Me, no?
No, you have to go the other way.
No, I turned my camera off. Did that change something?
Yeah, turn it back on. Oh, well, that's cool. Now you're back in your box, but Max is gone.
I'm actually still here.
Let's see. Let me go back to me. I go back to me and Max, and now I have caregiver frozen up. This is a nightmare. There's Max. All right, Max, you're okay. Caregiver, don't shut your camera off.
I have an idea.
What?
I could bow out of Skype and just be in the chat, and then you and Max can do what you and I usually do.
Let's try that.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. So, now what? Skype with Max. Hang tight, my friends. Oh, there we go. Say okay. Now I have to. Max, are you sitting properly?
No, I was trying to get my secondary monitor to work, but it's decided to pack a sad. We'll just ignore that.
I need to get you. Hang tight, my friends. This is live and a very experimental. Let me see if I go left. What is this going to do for me? That doesn't work. Try. You need to move to your left.
On my left.
Yeah. There you go. That's good.
Well, hang on. What if I'll just turn the screen.
Yeah. That works. That's pretty good. Okay. We'll go with this. Success. All right, Max, go ahead. Introduce yourself and tell everybody, what you're all about and why.
Okay. Well, we've lived in New Zealand for many years, and we were Christians, like I guess a lot of believers. And over time, in fact, for me, it was in Bible college that I started to learn a lot of the paganism that had enveloped Christianity. And I was, funnily enough, I was only one paper from completing my doctorate, and I just dropped out. I couldn't take the paganism and Christianity anymore, and so we became just recluse Christians, as it were. But as we decided to discard our bookshelf, we focused just on the scriptures, and that's when Yahweh really led us to truth. So we found out about the Shabbat, we found out about how important his laws are, things like that, and eventually we stumbled across some information about the name, which again opened another door, and then the whole Messianic movement started to rise up. So we'd been what you might call in the Hebraic roots movement for a number of years, and we met a few others who were also on the same journey. And as we were celebrating one Shabbat together, because of course, I think all of us, when we first come to the Hebraic roots movement, we look a lot towards what the Jewish people do and what Israel's been doing. And for us, we just assumed that because they were doing the Shabbat from evening to evening, that was the way it was done. And some friends of ours, when we went to visit them, we'd been visiting them several times, and we were always doing Shabbat the same. But then we came one week, and they said, "Oh, we're actually doing Shabbat from morning to morning." And our first reaction was, "Whoa, hang on, that's breaking tradition. You can't do that." And they gave us no information whatsoever, but said, "Oh, you need to look it up in the scriptures." And my first reaction was go to the internet and see what I could find. And of course, YouTube didn't exist in those days. The internet was still quite raw. But I managed to find one study that was just convoluted, mixed up. It was claiming that a day was only 12 hours long, and just a few strange things. And I put that aside and just thought, if the day start is linked to our honoring of the Shabbat, and the Shabbat was not instituted for the Jews, it was instituted for all of mankind at creation on the seventh day. Therefore, how to honor the Shabbat and the day reckoning will be in the creation account. So, like you, Alan, I just looked at the text in Genesis and took it word for word, and that to me was the point where I realized that, oh, the day starts in the morning. It's really quite plain. So once having Genesis as the foundation, I thought, well, there must be other narratives in Scripture that talk about when a day starts and how the day is reckoned according to all the accounts throughout Scripture. And sure enough, there's 30, 40 odd different accounts or narratives where people woke in the morning at the start of the day, etc. So we can have a look at some of those. But I really want to focus for the new listeners, or for people who don't, maybe sort of a little struggling with the tradition of the evening to evening, we can look at Genesis and really go over that.
Cool. Very good. By the way, caregiver, you can turn on your mic and maybe talk if you want to get our attention on anything, and just go ahead and talk. But for the rest of the video, me and Max will be here on the screen together. There are times where I may go to a couple of PDF files that Max has, at which time
where I may go to a couple of.
Oh, there's that weird echo thing that comes and goes. And when I go to the PDF, it'll take Max's position on the screen. But anyway, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and start posting them. Put the big capital Q 3 times, so I know you have a question. And for me, Max, like you said, I was doing a study on Bereshith, Genesis, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but we just read chapter 1, and by the time I got to the end of chapter 1, it was like, oh, by the way, look at how obvious this is. The day starts when the sun rises. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
But you've got some scriptures. You want me to share?
Well, like I say, if we can just really look at that Genesis, I know you've covered it, but if people are just watching this particular one, we really want to focus on having a look at it. That I think, because a lot of people get a bit hung up in their remembering of the good old King James version. The real key lies in when the scriptures say, Vayahi Erev, Vayahi Boker, or there came to be evening, there came to be morning. That's the key in the Genesis. I mean, if you're pulling it up on the screen for people to read, or I'm assuming if people have their scriptures open, they can read it. But the King James reads, "The evening and the morning were the first day," which is a very confusing statement, because evening to morning is only 12-hour period. That cannot be a day, because the evening to morning being 12 hours is a 12-hour period of darkness.
Yeah, it's half a day.
Yeah, so for me, when the light was created, I'll just hold. I'm not even sure if I'm holding this up in the right place, but can you see this one?
Yeah, raise it up a little bit. There you
My
go.
monitor is
little lower.
So in the beginning we have this. This was nothingness. The scriptures call it tohu and bohu, and choshek, or darkness, which is the absence of light, or the absence of anything. A lot can be debated about the ruach hovering over the face of the Naim, the waters, and the earth being formless and empty. But for me, really, the crux of it says light came to be. This is when the rotation of the earth began, or the earth was created, and the light, and that's where the time started to be counted. All this is of no consequence, really. So you have the light created, which Yahweh called day, or yom, and that is really the crux of it. Is yom is the light. Then of course it says there came to be evening, there came to be morning, and all of that was yom echad. Now I think you've talked quite a lot about the meaning of echad.
And also we want to clarify that day is yom, not yam.
Yeah, yom.
Yeah.
Yom, and like the King James again and others write the first day. That's not actually strictly correct. It should say day one, or yom echad, or the unified day, because echad means unified, so that the light and the darkness make the unified day.
Right.
And of course, when it says there came to be evening, there came to be morning, the morning is the end, but it's also the beginning of the second yom, or the light period.
We kind of discredit the King James all the time. The King James is a nightmare. It's a total mess. In fact, I think the NIV is one of the best English interpretations of the original Hebrew, but there's only one English Bible on earth that doesn't have hundreds of errors that all the other ones have, and that one is the Hallelujah Scriptures. That's the only one. Now, can you explain something there? Like, light. What light is that talking about? Because the sun is later, right?
Yeah, the sun wasn't created till the fourth day. So for me, if you, I know this causes a bit of strife amongst believers, so I don't want to cause too much of an issue. But in Colossians chapter 1, 15 to 17, it calls Yeshua the firstborn of all creation.
Well, not really. Not really. You'll have a problem if you go there with me. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So I believe that's when Yeshua's existence came to be, or he became the light of the world at that point. We can argue about whether he was pre-existent or not, but to me that's when he became the light of the world. And it says all was created through him and by him and for him.
I can go along with Yeshua becoming something additional to what he was, like him becoming the light of the world. I can go there, and I can accept that. I cannot accept that him being a created being, because wherever it says firstborn, the English, somebody needs to be gagged, permanently, because it never says firstborn. Yitzchak, Isaac, was not Abraham's firstborn. The word there is Yachid, and that means his one and only heir. So that's Yeshua. But to say that he became the light, because this light is not physical light that we're talking about. It's the illumination of revelation and Meltah. So I can go along with you on that he became the light, but you'll have an argument with me non-stop if you ever say he's created being. I won't go with
Okay,
it.
no, that's fair enough. We're not going to debate about whether it's created or not, but I believe that's when the light was first started counting. And I know there's even people who don't even believe that the Earth is round.
Right.
But that's when the light was revolving. Whether or not the Yeshua was revolving around the flat Earth, who knows? But time began to be when that light was created, is the way I see it. And of course, you can't get past the fact that the evening to morning period is only 12 hours. So there's got to be 12 hours previous to that to create an entire Yom, or as the day calls it, Echad Yom, the unified day.
Yeah.
Let's see. So that really continues through the second, third, fourth, and fifth, and of course then it gets to the part where it says, and Yahweh barach the seventh Yom, or the seventh light period. That doesn't mean he didn't barach and bless the night as well, but that's if you just continue in the order, you get to the seventh day, beginning in the morning, and completing itself in the following first morning, when the whole week begins itself again in a cycle, because Hebrew is a cyclical language.
Yeah. I have a deal here from Paddy Dobbs. Paddy is in Ireland. He's got 2 beautiful kids, and he says there are ions in the atmosphere that exhibit light when electromagnetically charged. They follow the sun. Maybe the presence of the Ruach made the ions excited and glow as he moved across the face. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. I've got some theories about what the spirit or the Ruach hovering on the face of the waters means. It's aside from the light, the morning issue. It just revolves around that. Everything that is in creation is actually a wave. Everything has a frequency. So light itself is a frequency, and sound is a frequency. And it says Yahweh spoke. That is frequency. And again, light is just at a high frequency, and sound is an audible frequency. But everything's a frequency, and these ions are all part of the same frequency. So light is just another aspect of Yahweh speaking, and Yeshua is that light, because he is called the Word. So again, frequency. Everything is all tied together in that.
And everything's spoken. He spoke everything. Well, that's Yeshua, because Yeshua is the Word of the Father. So the Father created everything through Yeshua. Yeshua being the Word. Look, I'm certain of one thing. Much of what we want to talk about here with all of this, we are incapable of understanding, because it's something that goes beyond 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions.
Yeah.
You agree?
Even trying to we're reading Ezekiel at the moment, and just reading Ezekiel's vision is like, wow, the wheels within a wheel, and the hands and the eyes and the wings and the faces. It's trying to explain something that no one has seen.
I did a video on that one, and I was talking about, Ezekiel's talking about cycles. He's not talking about UFOs up in the sky. He's not talking about, alien. He's talking about cycles. I did the video a long time ago, so I can't elaborate on it, but if anyone hasn't seen it, look up Ezekiel's Wheels on my channel and watch that one.
But continue with Bereshit, or Genesis. In the creation account, again in Genesis chapter 1, in verse 16, it says Yahweh created, or Elohim created, 2 great lights. So there was one to rule the day, one to rule the night. So again, you've already got an order there: day, night, one to rule the day, and the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. Again, there's your order. And of course, the moon will give no light without the sun.
Right.
Therefore, the sun must precede the moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, it was sort of quite obvious that the light preceded the night. Let's see. So, jumping into some narratives, if you want to pull up Genesis chapter 19, verses 33 to 34, and others can follow along. I'll just read it from the Hallelujah Scriptures there. I think it's pretty clear in pretty much any other translation. It's about Lot's daughters, strange story, but anyhow. So they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to be on the next day. So it was that night, then it was the next day, that the firstborn said to the younger, see, I lay with my father last night. So the narrative clearly says that it was the next day and that she had lain with her father last night.
Okay.
Clearly from the narrative, the day has started that morning.
Right.
When she said, I lay with my father last night.
That's a good one.
There was a lot of different scriptures that hint at the day starting in the morning. But what I've done for this particular study and put it on the website that I don't know if you've put it up somewhere, I've chosen the narratives that there's no other way of reading them. It's pretty much straightforward. A second one we'll go look in Exodus chapter 10 verse 13. If you've got that PDF, Alan, you just scroll down to it.
Hang on right now. I switched screens and it's working really nice. You're on top. Below you, I have your website, To Be Saved, a site dedicated to seekers of truth and Scripture. And we got 3 things we can click on. Click on here if you need to be saved. Click here if you're a Christian. We don't call ourselves Christians here. Click here for further study.
That's right.
So if they want to get to any files that you just mentioned, where do they go?
That's the third one. That's the more information.
Okay, I'm clicking on it, and we got live chat, YouTube coming soon. That sounds good.
Yeah.
When does the day start? Morning or evening? That's your
video.
That's your video.
If you scroll down just a little bit, there'll be a smaller box which says when does the day start.
Okay, and hang on. The video. When does the day start? Morning or evening? Watch the video. That's the video that Nick Vanderlaan linked to, and he watched it. He got excited. So please consider donating. Whoops, what happened to my... Okay, here we go. Name above all names, YHWH. When does the day start? The third one there?
Yes.
And what do we get by clicking on that?
You should get a page with the whole study. Oh,
okay, yeah, I'm scrolling down now. People can see it on their screen.
I used to have a link to a printable version, but I've since switched over to a WordPress one, which I'm supposed to be able to edit easier, but I have no idea how to do it. So I'm still going to try and learn that how to fix it up. So I'll get a link out later with a printable version, so you can take it with you and show others if you need.
Cool. Caregiver's got something to say. What's up, little girl?
Shalom.
Shalom.
We've got a couple of questions for Max. Can I break in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
We've got quite a number of people asking about Leviticus 23:32. It says evening to evening. And we also have Dave and Debbie has asked about your thoughts on Nehemiah 13:19 says, as it became dark before Shabbat. There's more to that question, but
like I said, I've got in the study there was that Alan is looking at and possibly is on the screen, but I can't see it because my monitor's broken. There is I've listed 30 scriptures of narratives that talk about from morning to morning, and then I've got what are called anomalies, and we could jump into those immediately if we want, or we can cover more the narratives covering the day starting in the morning. What would you prefer?
I'm kind of looking at your site. What was the question? Oh, the question was about a particular...
It's talking about Leviticus. It's talking about the Yom Kippur, is it? The Day of Atonement.
I'm on your webpage, and I'm seeing Leviticus 6:20 and 7:15.
Let's jump into Leviticus. We'll go to, if you scroll down further, you'll see a little title called Anomalies, and the first one is the Day of Atonement, Leviticus chapter 23.
Right.
26 to 32.
Okay, let me, I can make that bigger, I think. Can
Well,
I?
while you're doing that, some people have used this as a proof to say that the day starts in the evening. However, you'll notice right at the beginning of the chapter of Leviticus 23, it starts by stating that the Shabbat is reckoned every seventh day. Then it goes through all our other, Moedim, all the other days that we honor as festivals, and finally it gets to the one on the 10th of the seventh month, which is the Yom Kippur. And for me, it's the biggest proof that the day starts in the morning, because we'll read this starting in chapter 23, verse 26. It says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, on the 10th day of this month. Okay, so bear that in mind. It's on the 10th day of this month is Yom HaKippurim.
Right.
It shall be a Kodesh gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings and bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh, and you do no work on that same day. It is a Yom Kippurim, to make atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people, and any being who does any work on that same day, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. It is a Shabbat of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings on the 9th day of the month at evening. Now, did you notice something?
Yeah, you eliminated the period.
Well, no, they didn't eliminate anything. I'm just saying it began in 26, which says on the 10th day of the month.
Well, I'm sorry,
However,
I got stuck on, because I'm reading with you. It is a Shabbat of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings, period. On the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you observe your Shabbat.
Yeah.
On the
so
9th day.
It defines two different days. It defines that the start is on the 9th at evening, but it is on the 10th day, as in verse 26. Verse 26 says it's on the 10th day of the month.
Right.
But verse 32 says it starts on the 9th day, and you celebrate this Shabbat from evening to evening. Or that's this particular festival. That's what I believe. It's all the other festivals are honored exactly the same way as the first Shabbat that Yahweh instituted on creation, but this one is a special one, and it is celebrated from evening to evening, as is also Passover, which is celebrated between the evenings on the 14th day.
Interesting. On the 10th day of this 7th month is Yom HaKippurim, Kodesh gathering for you, yada, yada, yada. Verse 32, it is a Shabbat of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings. On the 9th day of that month, at evening. Now, see, this is a good point, because it's specifying at evening, where they needed to be told that, because generally the day starts in the morning. And here it's saying, okay, not the morning, at evening, and from evening to evening, you observe this Shabbat.
Correct.
So, yeah. I think it's kind of obvious.
For no other Shabbat does it tell us this.
Right.
It only comes along in is this the 5th Moedim that we celebrate? Because Pesach is the first, then Shavuot, then Yom Teruah, then this one. So this is the 4th festival of the year. So it tells us about 4 other festivals, including the 7-day Shabbat. And then it finally comes to saying, oh, for this one, you keep it from evening to evening. Otherwise, I mean, Yahweh in his infinite wisdom would have just put it right at the start of chapter 23 and said that all your Shabbats are from evening to evening.
Okay. Is this the question that caregiver presented?
I think she said somebody else. Or a number.
Go ahead, caregiver.
I think that covered all the questions I saw about evening to evening, Leviticus, this, that, and the other thing. And if it didn't seem to tonight, I just encourage everyone, like I always do, go back and listen a few more times, because I'm pretty sure Max just covered your question.
Yeah, I would agree. And thank you, little girl. Watch the questions, and feel free to interrupt with any pertinent questions that you feel Max should address.
Somebody did mention Nehemiah, and that is you know, to me, I personally get pretty frustrated when people are debating and they will not acknowledge a point where there is questionability. And Nehemiah is the one text in all of Scripture where there is an implication that the day possibly did start at evening. Now,
You want me to call that one up?
yeah, you can pull that one up. It's just below the one we've just been discussing.
Oh, you got it here.
Actually, no, it's quite a further way down. It's a good another 3 or 4 scriptures.
There it
The
is.
study also goes on to talk about the outside references aside from Scripture that all the dictionaries, all the rabbis, a lot of Talmudic writings talk about this issue, and what a lot of all the conclusive studies show is that during the Babylonian exile, a lot of the Jews started to celebrate their days from evening to evening because the Babylonians did that, also the Greeks, I believe. So during the time of Nehemiah, there may have been a group of people who indeed did their days from evening to evening. But when you actually read the text, it's only by implication and our preconception that we would say that the Shabbat starts at in the evening. And I can read this from Nehemiah. It says, did your fathers... Oh, sorry, we're in Nehemiah chapter 13.
Verses 18 to 21, I have it on the screen.
Yep. Did not your fathers do the same, so that our Elohim brought all this evil on us and on this city? Yet you bring added wrath on Israel by profaning the Shabbat. And it came to be, at the gates of Jerusalem, as it began to be dark before the Shabbat, that I commanded the gates to be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened until after the Shabbat, and I stationed some of my servants at the gates so that no burdens will be brought in on the Shabbat day. And the merchants, sellers of all kinds of wares spent the night outside Jerusalem once or twice, and I warned them and said, why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so again, I lay hands on you. From that time on, they came no more on the Shabbat. Now, it's only because we're assuming that we thought that the day started at evening that it says, as it began to be dark before the Shabbat. It's not necessarily stated that the Shabbat did start at the dark. It just says, as it came to be dark before the Shabbat. Now, if the Shabbat started in the morning or 6-7 hours after that, it's by implication that we're reading that into the text. To me, it was quite obvious to shut the gates at night because no one was going to get up in the morning to shut the gates on the Shabbat.
Well,
if
yeah.
we read early.
All I'm seeing is, came to be at the gates of Yerushalayim, as it began to be dark before the Shabbat. We're not talking about Shabbat yet. It started getting dark before the Shabbat. Well, if it began to get dark, that's when the day begins. It wouldn't say before. So I think that's pretty clear right there, as it began to be dark before the next day.
That's what I say. It's what we read into the text that we make it proof.
Yeah.
But okay. So having covered that, let's turn back to some of the more blatant scriptures that, if you scroll back right up to the beginning of this article, I want to focus on Leviticus and some of the laws of the Levites. If we turn to Leviticus chapter 6, verse 20.
Do you want me to open up one of your PDFs, or?
Yeah, well, it's either on the article on the site or on the PDF.
All right. Well, I'm on the site. So where am I going? I'm going down.
The higher you go, the more recent in the scriptures you'll get. So if you keep scrolling up, you'll be in Genesis,
Right.
Bereshit, then move your way to Exodus, and Leviticus is what you're looking for.
Genesis.
So Leviticus chapter 6, verse 20.
Okay, I'm there.
It says, this is the offering of Aharon and his sons, which they bring near to Yahweh, beginning on the day when he is anointed. 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it at night. To me, that's very clear that when they offer the grain offering, for the sons of Aaron, it's at the beginning of the day he is anointed. So the beginning of the day, the first offering is in the morning, and the second half of it at night.
Right.
It's very clear that the morning, then the night, if it's just one day. And again, if you scroll one verse down, Leviticus 7:15 makes it even clearer when it says, as for the flesh of the slaughtering of his peace offering for thanksgiving, it is eaten the same day it is offered. He does not leave any of it until morning. You cannot offer your offering on a day if your day began at night and not save any of it till morning,
Yep.
because it'd be gone that night.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing to eat.
Yeah.
So obviously the offering was in the morning, half of it in the morning, half of it at night, and not to leave any of it until morning, which is of course the start of the next day. There's quite a few of them, and if people want to go to them themselves, just another one I wanted to cover quickly was 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 10 to 11.
Okay.
And that's the account of when Shaul was trying to dispose of David. You've got that on screen?
I got it.
And Shaul sought to smite the spear through David then into the wall. But he slipped away from the presence of Shaul, so he smote the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. And Shaul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, and put him to death in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, informed him, saying, if you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you are put to death. So again, tomorrow was the next morning, which was when Shaul intended him to be put to death. We'll zip through to some new covenant, because it's fair enough to say, well, the old covenant, or the first covenant, I'm not going to call it the old one, the first covenant was back then, but then things may have changed. We know that the Jews, Yehudim, and the whole of Israel went into exile and picked up a lot of their pagan Babylonian traditions while in exile. But for me, it was quite important whether or not Yeshua and the Talmudim and all the other believers were indeed doing the same thing, in which case they would have given narratives and accounts of when they were honoring the day, or when they considered the day to begin. So to me, one of the most important set of scriptures is the account of Miriam and
Magdala?
oh, it's both, two Miriams.
Yeah.
Both Miriams, they waited till the morning to go to the tomb.
Matthew 28. After
yeah,
the Shabbat toward dawn, on one of the Shabbatot, that's plural for Sabbath, Shabbatot, Miriam from Magdala, and here's where it says the other Miriam. Yeah, we're not going to worship this woman. The Ruach refers to Mary, pardon me, but like the Catholics say, the Mother of God. No, the Ruach in Yahweh's word refers to Mary as the other Mary. I've talked about this before. But Matthew 28:1, after the Shabbat, toward dawn, on one of the Shabbatot, Miriam from Magdala and the other Miriam, Yeshua's mother, came to see the tomb. In all these examples, the Sabbath ended at dawn.
Yeah. To me, it was quite striking that Yeshua meant a lot to these people, obviously, and they were very concerned about the burial of a body and treating it in the utmost respect. So they deliberately waited right until after the Shabbat to dawn to go in and treat the body and with the spices, etc., etc. And in all the accounts, it says when the sun had risen, or at early dawn, or at dusk, and things like that. They waited right until that moment.
Okay.
Turning to Yochanan, John, chapter 6,
Gotcha.
verse 16 to 22. And when evening came, his Talmudim went down to the sea and entered into the boat, and they were going over to the sea toward Kefranachum, and it had already become dark when Yeshua had not yet come to them, and the sea was rising because a great wind was blowing. When they rowed about 30 stadios, they saw Yeshua walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were afraid. And he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." They wished therefore to take him into the boat, and at once the boat was at the land where they were going.
Yeah.
The next day, and the story continues. So it had already become dark. They arrived at land, and then it continues with the next day, because of course the next day began in the morning. Yochanan chapter 13, verse 27 to 30. And after the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Yeshua therefore said to him, "What you do, do quickly." But no one at the table knew why he said this to him, for some were supposing, because Yehudah had the bag, that Yeshua was saying to him, "Buy what we need for the festival," or that he should give somewhat to the poor. So having received the piece of bread, he then went out straight away, and it was night. The question to me is, they were celebrating the Pesach. Why would he be going out to buy anything if it was a Shabbat?
Good point.
Now, the Pesach is another issue that really needs to be assessed, because, and I've actually included a complete other article to cover the Pesach, because of the confusion that lies amongst so many different congregations. Some congregations celebrate their Pesach on the 14th, on the evening of the 14th, leading into the 15th, which gives you about half an hour of between the evenings to prepare your lamb, to slaughter, to eat it, and finish. Because the 15th, according to Leviticus, is a Shabbat. But if that were the case, then you've already passed into a Shabbat, which says no work is to be done, no fires to be lit, no, all of these things that are not to be done on Shabbat. They were doing all this.
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, if the day starts in the morning, and it says perform your Pesach on the evening of the 14th, you've got all day to have the lamb ready, to make all the little other preparations, so that on the evening you're ready to go, to have it prepared, and the 15th won't start until the morning. So therefore your rest begins on the morning of the 15th, and you've got all night to eat your lamb, to get rid of the remains, to have no fire, etc. And because of that reason, there is a number of other congregations who start their Pesach on the evening of the 13th, which begins the 14th, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So they wait till the sun goes down at the end of the 13th, call it the 14th, and thus begin the Pesach, just to overcome this whole issue. And it causes a lot of division amongst congregations that I've spoken with and dealt with. So that, to me, when this account of Yeshua telling Yehudah to go out and do whatever, and the other Talmudim said, "Oh, he must be going out to buy something," there's no way he would be buying something if it was
right.
the 15th.
Yeah.
Because the 15th is a Shabbat.
Yeah.
Anyway. So,
and the rabbis are famous for just making up whatever they want. I mean, they said, look, the Father gave us the right to create our own laws, so whatever laws we create, he has to obey. That's what they say.
Now that we're talking about that, there's a very modern rabbinical way of thinking. I don't know if you've heard of Rashbam, but he was a very prolific writer around the what we call the 11th century, I think, or 10th century. And a quote from him here says, Elohim named the newly formed unit of 12 hours of light day, and the newly formed unit of hours called darkness he called night, and they have been so called ever since. Day always preceded night. Daylight turned to evening as its light faded, then morning broke as the morning star signaled the end of the night. The first of the 6 days of creation referred to in the Ten Commandments was thus completed, and the second day began. That's a quote there which is also on the site. I don't know if you can read that, or if I'm holding this in completely the wrong place.
Oh, you're too close to the camera. You can back
okay.
up.
That's in the second PDF I sent you, if you wanted to pull that up. But
Which one? I've got Daystart Extra and Daystart
yeah,
001.
Daystart Extra.
Hang
And
on.
like I say, Rashbam is considered, he's quite renowned amongst the early rabbis.
Should I scroll down? I've got Daystart. I've got the extra up.
It'll be on the second that you'll see Rashbam's Genesis.
There we go. Rashbam's Genesis. Got it.
Number 5.
Number 5. Elohim named the newly formed unit of 12 hours of light day, and the newly formed unit of 12 hours of darkness night, and they have been so called ever since. Day always preceding night. Daylight turned to evening as its light faded. Then morning broke as the morning star signaled the end of night. The first of the 6 days of creation, referred to in the 10 Commandments, or the 10 Codes of Wisdom, as I like to call them, was thus completed, and the second day began.
So that's just one of many rabbinical commentaries, and there is quite a few that all admit that the previous mode of reckoning the Shabbat, or the day, was from morning to morning. There's just many of those. So I don't know if there's any more questions, or if we want to just keep on going with verses, because we've still got a lot more to look at.
What's up, caregiver? You got any questions out there, little girl?
Shalom. I am getting some feedback that people are asking, can we just get one yes or no? Shabbat starts at Saturday morning and ends when the sun comes up 24 hours later.
Yes.
Thank you. I just got so many people asking me. I'm a little confused.
Well, you know, it's go ahead, little girl.
Well, you know, as I'm typing and answering a lot of questions, forgive me, half listening. So I didn't want to say, yes, you have it. I'd rather have you say, yes, you have it.
Yeah. To me, you know, you just go to your own human, natural reasoning. You don't get up and have a cup of coffee and go to work when the sun sets. Nobody's ever done that. You don't, if you're a farmer, you don't get up when the sun is setting to go out and start plowing the fields.
Oh, man.
You know,
we don't have any other specific questions, so you can just keep going. We're at 7:49 right now.
If I just want to comment on the working aspect, you've raised a quite important issue, which to me it was somewhat irrelevant, but I shared it with some friends of ours, and this one chap, he went on and he found there's so many different more scriptures than I had already produced in the study. Of course, like I said, a lot of them can be inferred two ways depending on your preconceived mode of reckoning. But to him, one of the biggest scriptures was 6 days you shall work, and the seventh day is a day of rest. Now, he spent a lot of time in Israel, and in Israel, they work for 5 days. Friday is not a day of work for most people. I don't think there's many shops that are open at all after lunchtime, and I think half of them don't even open at all, because it is a preparation day. Because if you're working on your Friday and trying to finish your jobs and race home through the traffic before the sun is going down, and I guarantee there's a lot of our viewers out there who have been watching the sun setting as they're trying to finish off a piece of work or is stuck in traffic or something, and you're just racing and stressing and trying to get your last bits and pieces together while the sun's going down and the kids aren't ready, and it's just a mess, to be honest. But with the days beginning in the morning, you've got your full 6 days of work, no problem. You just cruise home, you have your dinner as normal, you go to bed, and then you wake up and it's Shabbat. That's all there's to it.
Yeah.
You finish your Shabbat at night, you go to bed, and you wake up and you're working again. It's just a constant cycle of freedom, and that's my main reason. And I'm not saying that emotions are more important than Yahweh's word. Yahweh's word is where we get all our doctrine and for instruction and understanding.
Yeah.
But Yahweh gave us the Shabbat as a rest.
Yeah.
And none of it should be a stress or just a mess. And I think that's what a lot of it does for people when they're trying to get all their things done before the sun goes down.
And how about this? It should never be a matter of works. I have to do this. You know, there's Vanessa is one of our moderators in the chat. She's calling in. Shalom, sweetheart.
Shalom, Alan. Shalom, Max.
Shalom.
I just wanted to say everything you're saying now is ringing so true to me, and that is how Abba confirmed for me personally as a single parent, you know, how to honor his Shabbat. As for me and my house, we started honoring Shabbat Saturday morning about a year ago before this was even presented to the Mishpachah. So and the reason why is because I would be so stressed out trying to prepare Friday after work and get my house together that it became a burden to me. And the Ruach told me, this is not how it's supposed to be. It's not a burden.
Right.
You know, Yahweh's way is light and it's effortless.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to say, I know I feel a little tension in the chat. I wanted to just confirm something that Caregiver has already said in the chat. If you guys go back, listen to Max, listen to Alan, at least 2 or 3 times you'll get it. I know this is fresh information, but this is Abba's way of really trying to see who has the heart to want to unlearn
That's right.
the lies of men and divorce the ways of the world and truly learn his way, because that's what the path of righteousness is all about.
Yeah,
So
I was just thinking, why would anyone even want to dispute the idea that the day begins when the sun comes up? Why would anyone want to dispute that other than, look, this is the way, you know, look, we've always celebrated Christmas. Don't take Christmas away from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
It's the love of the world.
It's the love of the world. And, you know, the thing is, Abba comes first. Either he comes first or he doesn't. You either have that eager desire to want him and put him first on, you know, number one on a list of one, or you don't. And that's just the bottom line. We're at the door. So I'm praying and eagerly expecting for Abba to show up. And all those who have a question, take it to Abba, listen, and go back and watch this live stream at least 2 or 3 times, because that's what I do.
Amen.
I love you both. Shalom.
Shalom. Thanks
Shalom.
for calling. That's Vanessa. We see Vanessa in the chat all the time. She's moderating and answering questions and being very helpful, as does Caregiver. But yeah, you know, Max, why would anybody want to dispute the idea of a day beginning in the morning? Do you have any kind of a handle on that?
Yeah, you did touch on it when you mentioned the tradition. Traditions are quite strong, and like, even for myself, like I said, we thought that, but looking to the Jews and the way they did the Shabbat, that was the answer. And then, of course, you get it confirmed when you read Leviticus. Again, I've covered that, how we read it incorrectly, and you think that, oh, your Shabbat is from evening to evening, talking about the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. That way, people, when they get that tradition locked in and they've got that scripture in the back of their mind, they don't want to dishonor Yahweh and break his command, because it says that scripture is quite clear. Whoever does not honor that Shabbat, they're cut off from his people.
Right.
That's quite an important one. So people, I generally allow people to study this for a good 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah.
just to really solidify, because you don't want to go doing something that's going to dishonor Yahweh. And Shaul talks a bit about in his letter, if you're eating meat to someone who doesn't have that free conscience of eating a particular meat, you do it, and if they start doing it and breaking their own conscience, it is a sin unto you. So I wouldn't tell people to immediately start celebrating the Shabbat in the morning, unless you're convinced from His Word, that it says to do it in morning to morning. Otherwise, there will be a breaking of the conscience.
Yeah, you're making a really, really important point. Because if somebody's just going to jump ship and start doing it because they heard Max say, then, who are they worshiping? And Vanessa brought up a really good point. Those who, they don't want to hear anything new. We just went through this because we've been studying the book of Yochanan. We just went through chapter 7 and we're into 8. And Yeshua made it very clear that no one comes unto him unless the Father is calling them. And I think the point Vanessa was making is that those who they get adamant and angry, it's like, no, it's from sunset to sunset. We've always done it that way. They don't want to hear anything new. They're not being called.
Well, not only is the system very divisive amongst believers, if you do start doing the Shabbat from morning to morning, you will separate yourself from your whole congregation.
Right.
And I was speaking to a friend of mine who I've had for quite a long time in Israel, and I was very hesitant to share it with him. But in the end, I sent him through the email with the studies, and his immediate response was, just no way. Then he emailed me about a week later, and he said, I'm studying this. This is quite scary that it's starting to look as though the day starts in the morning. It's now a month later, and his whole family is doing the Shabbat and honoring the day from morning to morning. But his whole family has pretty much disowned him. His congregation, he has to go to the congregation and honor 2 Shabbats, as it were, from the evening to evening and also the morning to morning. So it is difficult. It's not an easy thing to just change over.
And Yeshua said, I came to cause division, not...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I have, these are the papers you gave me when you were here, and I went through I couldn't believe there's so many scriptures in here. Yeah. It's not like there's like 2 or 3 and it's like, okay, you have to admit this is very clear. No, there's like dozens in here and they're so clear, it's staggering.
Yeah, well, for the sake of this video, I know we only had an hour, so we've covered some of the most simple, but we've only done about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But like I say, there's 30 odd scriptures there for people to go through if they follow the link to the site. Or even watch the videos if they're not readers. I know my video is not exactly marvelous, but I think it gets the point across.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Because it does get the point across. Yes, little girl, what's up?
We all enjoyed it. I had requests, throughout the chat. Please tell Max when you have a chance, break in and tell him how much we appreciate him, we love him and Abba Father, and we're just so glad for this study. So,
thank you.
That's for you, Max.
Okay. It's one of the reasons why I've never been on Skype. I've never personally appeared on YouTube or anything. I tried to remain very anonymous because believers and Christianity in general have either a tendency of worshiping somebody, or they'll stone them. And I didn't want to be either. I didn't want to be stoned, and I didn't want to be worshipped.
I know it wasn't easy, my friends, for me to talk Max into doing this. It did take a little convincing, and I just said it. I don't know, this week or a few of our fellowships back, where I says people have a tendency to worship men because they cannot believe in anything they can't see. And then I started singing a song I have. Take a good look at what you can't see. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. It's just what you believe, what you can't believe. But yeah, but it's okay, Max, because you got a beautiful face, and we're all not going to worship you.
I want to finish off. I don't know how long we got, but just reading these last couple of scriptures. They are prophecies or just comments from Jeremiah, Jeremiah.
Where are we? Let me go there.
We are just before the other commentaries at the end of the
PDF?
the blue scriptures.
Or your site?
Yeah, on the PDF of Daystart 001.
Daystart 001. Let me go there. Okay, I'm there. And where do I want to go?
Right to the end where the blue text stops.
Let's see. You got a lot of blue text.
Keep going to the end of that blue text.
To the end of the blue text. Where, what, we got other commentaries?
Yep, just before that, you've got two scriptures from Jeremiah.
Jeremiah 33:20.
Yep, 20 to 21.
Right.
To me, this was important because
there we go.
Like I said, when I became a true believer and sort of stepped away from Christianity, realizing that his covenant has remained throughout all generations for us, this was important. I'll read this out. It says, "Thus said Yahweh, if you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season, then my covenant could also be broken."
Thus said Yahweh, if you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season, in their cycle, then my covenant could also be broken. So in other words, you can't.
Yeah, you can't. His covenant cannot be broken. So his covenant is with the day and the night.
Yeah.
And it continues in Jeremiah 33:25 to 26, where it says, "Thus said Yahweh, if my covenant is not with the day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and the earth, then I would also reject the descendants of Yaakov." So he has appointed the laws of the Shamayim and earth, and his covenant is with the day and the night, and also the descendants. That's us, descendants of Yaakov.
Yeah, he just said 2 times. If my covenant is not with day and night, then forget it.
Yeah. And they cannot be broken because his covenant cannot be broken.
Right. Cool. All right, well, I think we'll close with a prayer. I forgot to pray because of all the I always like to pray right up front, but with all the distractions that were going on, I just got in the flesh, and So anyway, let's stop the chat, my friends. Let's all bow our hearts and thank our beloved Elohim for this fellowship. Dear beloved Abba, Father Yahweh, we come before you, Father, to worship you, to praise you, and to thank you, Father, for all things. Thank you for opening our eyes, our ears, and our hearts so that we may see, hear, and understand your truth. Thank you so much, Father, for the seeds that you have planted here this day. Thank you for causing them to take root. Thank you for causing them to be watered and to prosper and bring forth fruit that bears the seed of Yeshua. Oh, Abba, we love you so much as we give this day and every day to you, your beloved Yachid, our Adon, Yeshua, and your indwelling Ruach HaKodesh in Yeshua's Kodesh name, Yahweh, Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh Echad, and all the Mishpecha said,
Amen.
Amen. All right, my friends. Max, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Max.
You're welcome.
Thank you, little girl. Thank you, Vanessa, and all our beloved Mishpacha. Thank you all for being here this day. And you know how it goes, my friends. Until next time, keep your wicks trimmed and keep your lamps ablaze. Shalom, Chavarim.
You ask with your eyes if I need you. I'm a wondering why you're so scared. There's so much of food here to feed you. Or you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Or you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. There are things we're akin but not needing. The stuff built on Caesar's affairs. You started this way by believing. Oh, now you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Oh, you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. Now there's only one road left to follow, and $1 won't pay for your fare. A book might have a words you can swallow. Yeah, but you don't have to win, and you don't have to wonder why. Oh, you don't have to win, you don't have to wonder why. Wonder why.